is I am going to kick off this discussion. And as you can see on the screen, real briefly here, I chatted with Debbie Jones before this discussion about some popular and helpful products that we're going to showcase. And so that's what going to be our starting point today is that we're going to be talking about some of these, and you can learn more about them. But Debbie, before we get to know you and we dive into this, I want to give a shout out to your colleague, Bonnie O'Leary, because some of you may or may not remember, I'm 55 now, but when I was 43, I moved in and I lived in 5 different senior living communities for a short period of time to better experience what the readers of our publication go through, but also to just, really understand what people were going through, who I was giving advice to and guiding on their journey, if it included a senior living community. And it was an amazing experience for me. But as I would go out on the sort of the lecture circuit and talk about my experience, your colleague, Bonnie O'Leary, was always there in the front row, and her questions were always centered around hearing loss and what senior living communities were doing about to address the clients and the prospects that were living in their community that had hearing loss. And I really, forgive the pun, Bonnie really opened my eyes up to the challenge that we face with the disability of hearing loss. It's often invisible, and often the general public sees that somebody might have hearing aids and they think they're talking to the bionic man or woman. And she opened my eyes up to some real challenges, the challenge of background noise in a setting and how much stress that can put somebody through if they've got hearing aids, or if they don't have hearing aids, it's extra competition. So I want to thank Bonnie. I want to thank you for helping me learn about the wonderful resources at the Northern Virginia, at the Northern Virginia Center for Hearing, Deaf and Hard of Hearing. But sorry for that run up there, but I just wanted to give your organization a shout out. Let's find out a little bit about you, and then let's dive into getting into some of these products.
Thank you. Bonnie has worked really hard to make folks aware of the challenges involved with being a person who has hearing loss. She's worn hearing aids herself for many, many years. And it's great to know that folks like you are learning a lot from her questions and presentations. I've learned a lot from her working with her. My name is Debbie Jones. I'm the technology manager here at the Northern Virginia Resource Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons, which is why we usually just use the acronym NVRC. I have been working here since 1995. Not all that time was with the technology programs, but I have certainly learned a lot from working with the community and learning about all the bells and gadgets that are out there that really can help folks dealing with hearing loss stay in touch and stay connected with their communities, their families, at work, whatever the situation is. Because when we do start to lose our hearing, it gets challenging. For most of us, it's a slow process. It's a gradual process that sometimes we don't even realize it's happening. We're just slowly turning the volume up on the TV more and more until the family starts to say, whoa, Edgar, let's turn that down a bit. Hey, Jane, you're talking really loud. I can hear you just fine. And so there are, sometimes the people around us notice it before we do. But of course, there are also folks for whom this is an overnight process. And so hearing loss can strike, can happen, pop up in your life at any age, at any time. And that's why there are programs out there to help folks access the kinds of technologies that will help keep them connected.
I love it. Well, that's great, Debbie. And I'm really excited for you to dive into your topic. What I'm going to do is duck behind the curtain. And I want to remind everybody that you can type in your questions at any point during this discussion. In fact, it's not a question, but Robert Colson said, great job using live transcript. I'm listening to feedback. Yeah, if you don't know, you can access the transcript. You can turn it off if you like as well, but it's there for you, for your benefit. So Debbie, I'll let you take it away. I think you may have some slides to share. And then if you want to just check in periodically, I'll let you know if there's any questions that have come up.
Sounds good. All right, let me get my PowerPoint up here. Okay.
You good?
Yep.
There we go.
All righty. There we go. All right. And again, thank you all for having me here today. A little bit about my center. We are a private nonprofit organization here in the Northern Virginia area with the mission of empowering deaf and hard of hearing individuals and their families through education, advocacy, and community involvement. A lot of the services we provide are information and referral, outreach, educational programs like what we're doing today. We do hearing screenings, as well as advocating for folks who are deaf, hard of hearing, late deafened, and deafblind in the Northern Virginia area. We have kind of a large, odd territory right now. We cover the city of Alexandria, Arlington County, Fairfax County, Culpeper County, Fauquier County, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Rappahannock. As I mentioned, we are located in Fairfax, Virginia, real close to where I-66 and Route 50 cross each other. And we do have contracts with some of the local counties, Arlington and Fairfax in particular, as well as contracting with the Virginia Department for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, our state agency, to provide technology services like I'm talking about today. Most states have some kind of assistive technology program. And I think you all had a program just recently from Maryland. Each state handles it differently. Sometimes it's handled by the relay service in that particular state. Sometimes it's under the Department of Rehab Services. Here in Virginia, it's through the Department for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. The Technology Assistance Program was set up so that folks who are deaf, hard of hearing, deaf-blind, or have speech difficulties can access specialized telephone equipment to make sure that they are staying connected with their friends and family. It is a qualification program, so there's an application process. You must be a Virginia resident, have some kind of hearing loss or speech problem, and meet the income requirements for that program. Veterans who are in Virginia, veterans with a documented hearing loss, if they have a copy of their honorable discharge papers, when they submit that with the application, then they are automatically qualified for free equipment through this program. It focuses on telecommunications devices and alerting devices. So telephones, amplified telephones, TTYs, captioned telephones, and then those alerting devices that let you know when your phone is ringing, when somebody's at the door, that sort of thing. The application looks at the size of your household, how many people live within your household, and what the monthly household income is. And if you meet those guidelines, you get to borrow equipment for 30 days. At the end of that time, if the equipment works for you and suits your needs, it automatically becomes yours. Now, if you don't qualify for free equipment, you can still get equipment through the state at the state's cost, or the outreach specialist can help you find the devices in the general market. We can provide you contacts for vendors and kind of help you shop around to find the device that's right for you. So those communication devices include amplified telephones. These are phones that are designed to be compatible with hearing aids. They have volume control to make that sound louder, as well as tone control, which can help boost those frequencies that you are struggling to hear. So say you have high frequency hearing loss, you can adjust the tone control to boost those frequencies even more to give you more information. For some folks, it helps to even use a speakerphone because you're able to use both ears to understand, to follow your conversation. When you've got a hearing loss and you're struggling to understand with just one ear that's not working so well, using a speakerphone, using both ears to follow the conversation can give you better access to that conversation. For folks who also have mobility issues, there are amplified cordless phones available in the program. Again, they've got the volume control. They have the tone control to help you get the best listening experience that you can. Many of these, all of these amplified phones also have amplified ringers. And generally you can adjust the tone of those rings. So again, if you hear low sounds better, you can make it ring in a low tone. If you hear high sounds better, make it ring in a higher tone. Sometimes, no matter how much you boost volume and adjust the tone, you just cannot understand over the telephone. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. The person that's calling you, are they on a landline or a cell phone? Do they speak clearly or do they mumble and speak really fast? A lot of different factors in communication. If you're really struggling to understand over the telephone, there are captioned telephones that will print out what the other person is saying for you. And this shows up on a screen that is built into the telephone. These have some adjustability. So if you're also dealing with vision issues, you can make the text much larger. You can change the color of the background and the text to make it a better contrast for you. And then also the phone has that amplification as well as the tone control, so that you can use whatever residual hearing you do have to follow the conversation. And then if you missed that word, you weren't sure what they said, look down at the screen to see what that information was. It's not perfect, but it gives you more control over your phone calls. You see something come up and I'm like, you can say, hey, hold on a sec. What was it you said before this? Again, you have control over the phone call. This is also very helpful when you're calling places where you need to set up appointments. If you're calling the doctor's office where they're giving you times and dates, having the text, the captions as a backup can be very helpful. And of course, TTYs. Some of you may have seen these. When telephone communications first, really kind of ramped up way back in history, TTYs were one of the first communication devices for deaf and hard of hearing folks to communicate on the phone. It is a device that allows you to type over the telephone line instead of depending on a voice that may not be clear or hearing that may not allow you to understand. This is an older technology, and it is slowly fading away. As more and more telephone systems become digital instead of analog, this technology is becoming obsolete. However, it is still a useful technology, particularly for folks who have speech disabilities. Being able to call somebody through the relay and type what you want to say and have the operator voice that for you through the phone line is a real freeing experience. So it is still useful. It will eventually fade away. The FCC has recently approved a newer technology since analog technology is fading away. It's called RTT, or real-time text. Real-time text is actually a function that's available on your smartphone, on your mobile phone. If you look at the accessibility features, it is one of the options there, and you can follow the instructions to turn it on. Basically, what it allows you to do is type over an open telephone call. So if you were someone who couldn't hear or could not speak clearly, you could use RTT on your smartphone to call your friend, your family, and you could type to them. So technologies like the TTY and the Captioned Telephone rely on a relay service. Each state has its own relay service, and nationwide, you can connect to that relay service by dialing 711. The relay service was established so that folks who use this kind of specialized telephone equipment can contact folks who do not have it, who use normal telephones. It's available 24/7, and there's no limitations on how long the calls have to be or what kinds of phone numbers that they can call. It is to be the equivalent of a normal telephone. There is a specially trained operator called a communications assistant who is there to facilitate the call and make sure that that communication happens. Those communications assistants follow a strict code of confidentiality. The way that the system is set up, once both parties hang up, all of the information that was exchanged is erased and cannot be retrieved from any of the relay services computers. Okay. All right, before I go ahead.
Yeah, Debbie, I was going to say, you got some good questions on all of that. So I love this guy. And such a creative acronym. Gene Pool is his name. We know that's not his real name, but the first question is, any of the amplified phones Bluetooth compatible?
I do not know if any of the phones in the current TAP program are. However, there are amplified telephones on the market that are Bluetooth compatible, that you can sync your cell phone to, so that if you start the call on your cell phone and you need the amplification, you can kind of send it to your home phone and pick up with the amplification. And I believe that also allows for Bluetooth enabled hearing aids to sync with the phone as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's probably why he was asking that question. And then Mary Busey says, do these phones include answering machines? Does the transcription work with callers with foreign accents? Two good questions there. Excellent questions.
The current phones in the TAP program do not have answering machines, I do not believe. I will have to double check that. So many folks have the voicemail available from their phone company at no cost at this point. So many of the phones have stopped including that. However, I do know of a few phones on the market that do have answering machines. With the Captioned telephones, they do have answering machines built in, and the answering machines caption the messages that are left as well. The transcription can help with callers who have foreign accents or strong accents. However, there is still a human involved in that transcription. So sometimes even the hearing people struggle with foreign accents.
Yep.
But again, that gives you, as the person with a hearing loss, control of that call to say, I'm sorry, I'm just really not understanding you. Is there another way that we can communicate?
No, that's great. And then, so another question. So can text and words of the telephone conversation be recorded and preserved so that the information in the phone conversation can be renewed and read again for better understanding?
With the captioned telephones, you do have the option to save conversation. And so when you're calling the doctor's office, you can either turn that on for each call, or you can kind of set that as the default so that that's always on. Every conversation you have will be saved in the phone's memory. That way, you don't have to try to write down the information while you're still communicating on the phone. You can wait till you hang up, go back into the phone and call up that conversation so that you can reread it and get the important information.
Great. And then let's see. Krista Kramer says, does the TAP program have any cell phone options?
Not currently.
Okay.
They have tried a cell phone option in the past, and it just wasn't very popular for some reason. So they put that part on hold, and we'll probably look at that again later. As many of you know, so many people, particularly in Northern Virginia, have stopped even having a telephone line at home, and everybody uses their mobile phone for everything. So that is something that the program will have to look at moving forward.
Okay, great. And then I know we had a program not too long ago where we talked about the Google Pixel phone, which has some really interesting features on it for folks with hearing impairment. Were you going to be talking about that at all today?
I am not. That is not currently available in the state program, but technology is changing fast. And luckily, some of these manufacturers are paying attention to folks who are deaf and hard of hearing and listening when they say, hey, we need these accessibilities.
Yeah, and I'll drop into chat the recording that we did where we did dive into the Google Pixel phone with a little bit more detail.
Okay.
So I'll do that for this next section. And lastly, last question before you move on is, can you specifically say which phones have the answering machines built in, or is it best for somebody to just contact you directly?
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like I said, the captioned phones do have it. I know that some of the phones from Serene Innovations do have an answering machine.
Okay.
But otherwise, contact me and I can do some checking for you.
Absolutely. And okay, well, now we move to the next section, but before you do that, I just have to tell people this one product that is on the screen here, I think it's called a Pocketalker. When I was invited to a hearing loss support group, there was a gentleman there. He had 2 hearing aids, and but he got to use this Pocketalker for the first time. And when he put those headphones on and we started talking to him, I swear it was like he opened a present on Christmas morning, because he could hear us clearly, and it's directional. He was just so happy. And I talk about this product all the time because it's affordable, and I saw firsthand how valuable it can be.
It is a really helpful device. Sometimes folks come to the TAP program and they're doing just fine with the telephone. You know, they just need to turn it up louder. They've got that situation handled, but it's really the one-on-one interactions that they're struggling with. And so a personal amplifier was added to the TAP program. Again, making sure that folks stay connected, making sure that they can continue to communicate with their friends and families in those one-on-one or small group situations. The personal amplifier has a built-in microphone. It can be used with headphones or earbuds. If the hearing aids that you have a device called the telecoil built into them, you can wear it with what's called a neck loop, which is just a loop of wire that sits around the neck. And it gives a direct feed of the sound to your hearing aids, pardon me. Gives a direct feed to the sound to your hearing aids through that magnetic loop using the neck loop. The one on the screen here is the Pocketalker Ultra. This is a slightly newer version. This is the Pocketalker 2.0. Again, it's really no bigger than a deck of cards. You've got your microphone. You can use the headphones. And very often, these also come with a lanyard. It's got a little space where you can attach the lanyard. So you can, it's also got a belt loop here. So you can clip it to your shirt, clip it to your belt, wear it around your neck to give you access to that sound. It lets you adjust the volume as well as tone, and gives you more control over your conversations. The other one that's here is called the Duet, and it does basically the same thing. This one happens to be rechargeable. The Pocketalker Ultra uses batteries, so you would have to switch those out. The Pocketalker 2.0 does have a rechargeable option. So depending on what your needs are, if you're somebody that, you know, sometimes our dexterity is not great, so changing batteries is not a great option for you. Maybe you do need something that sits in a recharger overnight to make sure that you can stay connected. These are great for riding in the car to follow the conversation. Some of these devices actually have an extension cord, so you can take the microphone and put it on the extension cord and kind of pass the microphone around to make sure that you are hearing the person who is speaking as clearly as possible. There we go. So now that you've got your communication worked out, how do you know when the phone is ringing? How do you know when the telephone is ringing, the doorbell, that sort of thing? There are devices to help out with that as well. There are amplified ringers that can be added to your existing telephone. These are ringers that allow you to adjust the volume and then also adjust the tone, high sounds, low sounds, and the pattern of the ring as well. Maybe the regular ring of a telephone doesn't get your attention, but if it's a double ring or a triple ring, it catches your attention more easily. So this is something that you can add. It just daisy chains into your telephone's line, just like the old answering machines do. There are also flashing doorbells. This one has a light built in. These are wireless doorbells, by the way, so you do not have to run wiring or bring in an electrician to take care of installing it. This is also one that you can adjust the volume of the ring of the doorbell, and you can either choose a particular tone, high, low, medium, or it will do the, I believe it's called the Westminster chime, where it goes up and down as it rings. again, getting your attention the best way for you. And these wireless doorbell systems, generally, depending on the materials your house is built out of, generally they can be 80 to 100 feet from the doorbell unit. There are also kind of all-in-one systems that will alert for a variety of different things. This is a system that flashes, lights, and shakes the bed. And it alerts for the doorbell, the telephone, it alerts for a built-in alarm clock. And then you can also get additional monitor pieces, say for like a baby crier. You can get a baby crier unit and sync with it so that the system goes off when the babies cry. Motion detector, that sort of thing. So these all-in-one units, you can have your base unit up in the bedroom, and then you can have remote units throughout the house that will also chime and flash lights. Okay, just wanted to take a pause here and see if there were any questions about signaling devices.
Let's see what we got here. Okay. Somebody says educational information and family experience shows that people who are hearing challenged hide their hearing loss for many years. What can family members watch for as signs and symptoms of hearing loss?
That is true. That is very true. Generally, they say that the person will wait 5 to 7 years between the time they suspect they're having an issue to the time that they actually do something about it. As I mentioned, a lot of times family members will notice things before the individual does. Asking for things to be repeated, not answering the question that was asked, answering something off topic because they misheard what was asked. Do you know the time? Well, I've only got 10 cents. I've only got 15 cents, or, that kind of thing. Time, dime, those words that sound similar can change the topic of what the conversation was very easily.
Yeah, it's really, I found this in recently in several scenarios where the stigma of potentially having to get a hearing aid is one of these elements that, even though now that the hearing aids are almost pretty much invisible, it's just, we've got such an anti-aging and ageist bias that even emotionally, somebody realizing that they may need something like this is difficult to stomach. However, what I always remind people of is that I'll say, do you have grandchildren? And it's sort of like, oh, well, yes. And it's sort of like, well, you want to hear what they say, right? I mean, don't think of it as a sign of aging or decline. Think of it as an opportunity to better interact with the people that you love around you. So let's see. Mary Busey says, this is great information for dealing with my current level of hearing loss and good to know for the future. Someone asks, do these work for cell phones? And I'm wondering if they're referring to the last round of devices that you were talking about.
Right, the signaling systems.
Yeah.
The ones that I have mentioned that's currently in the TAP program, no. The TAP program is slow, a little slower than the technology that's out there because government red tape. You have to go through a whole process to add new things to the program. But yes, there are devices out there that they're like stands that you can put your cell phone on to recharge that will sense the vibration of the phone and flash lights. So yes, there are systems out there that can signal for your cell phone. They're not currently in the TAP program.
And let's see, Lina has two comments here, and one says, you didn't mention the mattress vibrator to alert the sleeping individual that the unit is flashing. That's good, and that's also good. Probably you could use that as an alarm clock too.
Right. I did mention it real briefly. I didn't kind of expand on it.
Okay.
That is the bed shaker.
Okay.
In that all-in-one unit, that's the doorbell, the telephone, the alarm clock. So part of that system is an optional bed shaker. And so it is literally a vibrator. Most of them look like a big old hockey puck. And depending on how deeply you sleep, you can put it under the mattress if you're a pretty light sleeper, or put it in your pillowcase if you're a pretty heavy sleeper. And anytime the system is triggered, it flashes and shakes the bed.
Great. And then Lina mentions that she has 5 rooms in her apartment where she's using devices like that, and they work very well. Lina, if you're willing, before we wrap up, it would be great at the end, if we've got time, and you're willing, I would love for you to share maybe some of your experiences with your units. Let's see. Another question. Steve mentioned the Pocket amplifier is very affordable. Can it be purchased if the device is needed and we're not a part of your program? But is the Pocketalker part of the program?
Yes, currently the Pocketalker is included in the TAP program.
And you know, I know, at least with Maryland Relay, that to qualify for these hearing loss programs, it's not that difficult. It's basically, if you have hearing loss to a point where it is difficult, where you're having challenges communicating on the phone or while watching TV or what have you, that's enough to qualify. Is that the same for your program?
Each state handles it differently.
Okay.
In some states, they provide the equipment for free. You know, as long as you qualify by hearing loss and all of that, they provide the equipment for free. But if you move out of state, you have to give the equipment back to the state. Some states, it's a purchase program, and that's what Virginia does. So that's why they also look at your financial information. So you qualify by hearing loss and financial eligibility. And but that means that if you have to move out of state, you get to take that equipment with you.
Great. And then I promise, it looks like we're almost done with this round of questions. Krista, but thank you everybody for all these great questions. Krista says, I've also used a doorbell button on an alerting system as a caregiver call button with a bed shaker to wake a caregiver who has hearing impairment. Thanks for sharing that. This is great. And then our friend Gene Poole says, does the Comfort Duet have a telecoil capability?
Yes, it does. Thank you for mentioning that, Gene. So as I mentioned before, the telecoil is generally found in a hearing aid. And it is literally a coil of wire built into the hearing aid, also into cochlear implants, by the way. And that coil of wire allows it to pick up magnetic fields. So originally that was when you picked up the old-fashioned telephone, it connected with the magnetic field on the earpiece to block out background noise. So with current listening systems that are out there, you can also step into that magnetic field, whether that's a loop of wire under the carpet or in the ceiling, the neck loop, and get that direct sound feed to the hearing aid through that coil. Now, not everybody has hearing aids. First of all, not everybody has hearing aids, and not everybody has hearing aids fitted with telecoil. Some of the really tiny hearing aids, like the in the canal and completely in the canal, they're too small for that. So having a device like the Comfort Duet, it has the telecoil built in, and actually so does the Pocketalker 2.0. The telecoil is built into this device, so that you can put on the headset and pick up that magnetic feed.
Great. Okay, that's done with that round of questions. Thanks again for such a lively and interactive audience.
Y'all have great questions. This is awesome. Thank you. A quick note about the commenter who said they've used the doorbell unit to call their caretaker. Some of the systems actually will provide extra doorbells. I know one at least where it's like labeled SOS, so that if the person is trying to get the attention of their caretaker who has a hearing loss, they can push their little SOS button and it will activate the system to summon them. So that covers the devices that are in the TAP program. It really focuses primarily on telecommunications and the signaling systems, and also giving that, the Pocketalker, the personal amplifier devices for those one-on-one communications. However, there's a lot more out there on the market, devices that you could take advantage of in the home to help you cope with hearing loss. One of the things we hear a lot about is the television. One of the things that folks will notice is that the TV is getting louder and louder, and everybody else is like, oh my goodness, that's way too loud. There are devices that you can get that you connect to the audio out jacks of your television set. And then the individual with hearing loss can wear the headset or the stethoscope, or put the little speaker right next to them to give them more control over the volume, while the general TV volume stays comfortable for everybody else in the room. These transmit information a couple different ways. Some of them use infrared light. So you can hear that volume as long as you are in that room with that receiver. But if you leave the room and that infrared light can't find the receiver, you lose the sound. Others are radio frequency transmitters. So you could put on your headset and walk all over the house listening to the TV. And then, of course, nowadays, some of these are Bluetooth technology. So you connect it to the audio out of your TV and the headset is synced with the Bluetooth and you're good to go. Another option is folks can put an extra speaker, and generally these are wireless speakers, right next to their seat and control the volume there. There's even a company that makes speakers that will sit on the back of your chair, kind of, so you have the speakers right there next to your ears. And again, giving you control of that volume, so you're not blasting everybody else out of the house. Devices like the personal amplifiers can also help with the TV. So you can kind of play around and see what is out there, what fits your needs, and see what's going to work best for you. There's also a lot of alarm clocks out there. As I mentioned before, some of them are all-in-one systems that alert for different things. Some are strictly alarm clock alerts. Some have really loud rings. You can adjust the tone, you can adjust the volume. You can plug in a light and have it flash the lights. And of course, the bed shaker. Most of these systems, you can kind of pick and choose what's the best one thing or combination of things that is going to wake you up in the morning. There are also travel versions of these vibrating alarm clocks. So you can set the alarm, fold it up, put it in your pillowcase while you're traveling, and it will shake you awake. There are now Bluetooth bed shakers that you can take advantage of. These are devices that you can sync with your mobile phone. Generally, you buy the device and you download an app to your smartphone and you sync the devices together and then use your cell phone as the alarm clock. And the bed shaker, again, goes into your pillowcase to shake and vibrate when it's time to get up. Another really important piece of technology to consider for your home when you're dealing with folks with hearing loss is visual smoke detectors. There are some programs out there, county by county, that are set up specifically for folks who are deaf and hard of hearing. Two that I know for sure is Fairfax County, Virginia, and Loudoun County, Virginia, where you can apply for a visual smoke detector through the county. Others, the programs vary from state to state or county to county. You can certainly purchase these through specialized vendors. Sometimes you can get them through Home Depot as well. But this is something really important to consider when you're dealing with a hearing loss. Cochlear implants are awesome. Hearing aids are awesome when they work during the day, but at night, most of us take them out. Most of us should take them out anyway. It's better for your ears to take them off overnight. Gives the devices a chance to dry out as well. When we take those devices off, we're at an even greater loss. So having something that will wake you up, that will flash the lights, be really loud, possibly even shake the bed, is important to have for the home. If you know folks who rent their homes, as part of the Code of Virginia, it is the landlord's responsibility to provide visual smoke detectors upon request. You just have to write them a letter stating that someone within the home has a hearing loss and needs a visual smoke detector for safety. It is then the landlord's responsibility to make sure that that gets installed. Okay, just want to make sure that you all know about that. All right, take a quick pause here and see what kind of questions we might have.
Yep, let's see. Gene Poole, Gene, you win the gold star today for the most questions and the best questions, although all the questions have been great. He's just letting everybody know the Costco KS10 have built-in telecoil. That's a hearing aid, obviously. And then someone says magnetic field pickup, magnetic feed telecoil, complicated but interesting. Can you explain once more or say where we can read more about this equipment that is offered this feature and benefits? Radio frequency, Bluetooth. What did you, as would help with conversations and moving cars when families are on long road trips? And they also mentioned we need those bed shakers for family and caregivers. Thank you.
Sure thing. So when I talk about the telecoil, this is a piece of technology that is generally installed in hearing aids, but also obviously in some other devices like the personal amplifiers. What it is, literally, it's a very tight coil of wire that is installed in the hearing aid or the cochlear implant, and it has the ability to pick up magnetic fields. And so one of the technologies is referred to as a hearing loop. So there is literally a loop of wire, and this can be installed in a meeting room under the carpet or in a meeting room in the ceiling, or an individual can wear the neck loop. It's a loop of wire and it creates a magnetic field. So that loop of wire is then plugged into some kind of sound system. So that can be the PA system in the meeting room or the personal amplifier. So then anything that is said into that microphone is fed into that magnetic loop, and the telecoil picks up that magnetic loop and brings the sound directly to your hearing aid. So say in a meeting room, if you're in a meeting room with one of these hearing loops installed, you go in that room, activate your telecoil, and you can hear everything said through the microphone, no matter where you are in that room.
Okay, and then it looks like Mary, there's a comment. We have many euphemisms for old. I call my hearing aids my hearing helpers. I think the term hearing aids sounds like old age to many people, thus reluctance to get them. Mary, this is awesome. And as many of you know, from time to time, we do discussions on ageism, and the terms that we use and the words that we use are often the big challenge to these devices that can be so helpful. But I love how you refer to your what I'm not going to call hearing aids anymore. I'm going to your hearing helpers, and hopefully some brilliant manufacturers will get on the same wavelength.
Absolutely.
All right.
To go back to the previous question real quick,
Yep.
it was the Pocketalker. So the personal amplifier was the device that I mentioned that can be helpful for car trips. And Mary, you are absolutely right. Some of this language is outdated because hearing loss doesn't care. I've met, kids who are 18 months old who have hearing loss, and they wear hearing aids. Hearing loss can strike at any time. You can be born with it. You can acquire it in so many different ways. Hearing aids is left over from language where they talked about auxiliary aids. And so but yes, it is part of the barrier that folks, whether they get stuck on the terminology or they're just very reluctant to go ahead and try it. So yeah.
So all right. Well, I cleared the deck there for all the questions. So
Okay.
keep on going.
Sure thing. As several of you mentioned, folks are using their cell phones more and more, and that's a whole nother presentation. But there are so many apps out there that are available now that people can take advantage of. Many hearing aids nowadays have an app that you can download to your smartphone that let you control your hearing aids. It lets you use your cell phone as another amplifier that feeds directly to your hearing aids through a Bluetooth connection. There are apps that you can download to get those captioned telephone calls. So no matter where you are, you can have captions on your phone calls. For folks who use sign language, there are apps that let them connect to the video relay so that they can sign in American Sign Language on their phone calls in their natural language. There are apps you can take advantage of for voice to text. If you are really struggling to communicate with someone, pull out your phone. Well, first of all, you could type back and forth because when in doubt, write it out. You can type back and forth or use these voice to text apps and let the phone type it out for you. Again, they're not going to be perfect. Certainly, it's not what you want to use when you are discussing really important information, but this is something that you can take advantage of to improve your communication with your friends and family. As I mentioned, there are specialized vendors that you can get this equipment through. Our center has put together a list. This is just part of the list, but we have put together a list that we can send out to you, and we can help you find these vendors in your community. All of the devices that I've discussed are available vendors. So certainly you could apply through the state program, or if you decide you don't want to do that, you can go directly to a vendor to purchase these devices yourself. Someone mentioned for the Pocketalker or the other personal amplifiers. Generally, you can find a good quality amplifier for between $100 and $200. So reasonably priced, that kind of depends on what your financial situation is, but certainly they are reasonable for quite a few people. Our center here in Fairfax does have a demonstration room where we have a lot of different devices, not all the devices that I've shown you today, but certainly the devices in the technology assistance program. You can make an appointment to come into our demo room and we can sit down and talk about the situation, what challenges you're having, and try some devices out. Just see what might work best for you. So, we love having visitors. We haven't had them in a while, of course, but we do enjoy having folks come and check things out. So get in touch with us. We'd love to help you out. And which kind of comes to the end of my presentation. It looks like we've got a couple more.
Yeah, and
Okay.
let's see here.
Oh, yes.
Krista says, there is also a nationwide program for telecommunication equipment for people with combined vision and hearing loss,
Yes.
deafblind, called I Can Connect. It covers not only telephone equipment, but also internet communication equipment, including Braille keyboards. Krista, ironically, we were talking about this right before the program today. We really need to do a discussion just like this one for low vision. And so it sounds like you're pretty knowledgeable in this area, but if you don't mind sending me an email to steve@proaging.com, I think it would be great to get the I Can Connect people on for a discussion and learn more about that program. That would be great. Thanks for sharing that resource with our audience.
And that's a great program. I've worked with some of the I Can Connect folks because I do work with deafblind individuals as well. And it's a really great resource for folks.
Great. Yeah, we want to make sure that we provide some support with for the low vision people, of which I'm one. I'm legally blind in one eye. Okay, and then the last question that I've got here, it says, are you familiar with the new Hear Helper designed and developed because we can hear with our brains and process sounds with our brains, but not with our ears? These new hearing helpers are designed to work with cell phones, so the hearing helper sounds more natural and does not sound and feel like a small microphone in our ears. It is our understanding that these hearing aid helpers are a small computer in each ear that presently may be expensive. Just wondering if anybody's heard about these.
I have not heard about that one specifically. You are correct. We hear with our brains and not our ears. These things on the sides of our heads are just there to collect all those sounds that we hear and work them through the hearing mechanism. There's a lot of factors in being able to hear correctly. So a lot depends on what kind of hearing loss you have. Is it conductive versus sensory neural? And where along that hearing mechanism the problem is happening. So there are some technologies that are helpful for those mild to moderate hearing losses that are really being developed right now. As I mentioned, I haven't heard of that specific one, but thank you for letting me know about that. I'll have to look into it.
Great. All right. Well, we are past one. We got through all the questions. Another great program. Debbie, thanks so much. I did record this so folks can share it. And then Debbie, I'll make sure to share your contact information with everybody.
Please do. If anyone would like, if anybody would like a copy of the slideshow, please get in touch.
Okay. And then also Melissa just jumped in and she said, do you know if any other states, Maryland, DC, or West Virginia, have demonstration rooms like yours?
You would have to contact the program directly. Some of them have specialists that take equipment out to show people, and others have a center where you can go and take a look at things.
Great. And then whenever I say it's over, this is when all the questions come in. Lina says, I've been wearing hearing aids or hearing helpers for 25 years. I went to university at age 50, had difficulty hearing lectures. I knew before attending that I had hearing loss, and this situation encouraged me to do something about it. 3 years later, I discovered I had an acoustic neuroma in my right ear, and it's removal severed my hearing nerve in my right ear. Following this, I ended up with bi-cross hearing aids. Improvement to the devices have since then given the new technology to hearing aid and the bi-cross under our government program and a Bluetooth with a neck wire loop control unit, which controls by my iPhone. Absolutely marvelous. The government has also given me 5 light units as displayed in your, 5 light units as displayed in your program. This is awesome, Lynn. And yeah, Melissa says she lives in a more rural area. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the demonstration projects are probably a little bit more located in urban settings.
Actually,
Okay,
in Virginia, there are outreach specialists for each region of Virginia. And so even, for Southwest Virginia, there are outreach specialists that work with the state office that can help you find out about this equipment.
great. And Krista says each state has an assistive technology project which does demos. And here I'm going to drop this whole comment into chat, and we record the chat as well with the recording. So that way everybody will have this after the fact as well. So thank you, Krista. She provided a link to these programs. Again, what a wonderful discussion. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next discussion and following up shortly.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity to talk with you.
You bet. Thanks.